Dear conference participants, it is my pleasure to offer to your attention our paper Data Loss Prevention in Higher Education. The paper discusses data loss prevention in higher education institutions since data breaches are becoming more and more common in the recent years. Data compromised in higher education extend far beyond personal and financial data, including also sensitive research data. The environment of openness and collaboration between universities, as well as the typical access of many portable devices, make access easier for hackers and detection of unauthorized access difficult. In the paper, we argue that DLP is of high importance for universities, since they work with a variety of types of data which are subject to different regulations, and besides the necessity some of the data to be kept confidential, there is also a counter need some of the data to be made available to the public as results of academic research, for example. The paper discusses how universities can build their data loss protection strategies, and the first step in this is the classification of data types used in universities, and after that defining the critical data which necessarily needs protection. In the paper, we have classified the data types used in universities in two main categories: organizational information related to administrative information, financial and accounting information like human resources information, for example. And the other category is the research information and information related to the educational process, where we also have intellectual property rights and unpublished and unprotected as objects of intellectual property materials and results of scientific research. In terms of critical data, as mentioned, this is the first step in the process of building university data loss protection policies. And among the critical data types that we have identified, here you can see some of the most important ones, like study materials, the assessment of students, the diplomas of the students, project documentation related to projects on which scientists work at the university, especially those projects where there is some restricted access to information. Regulations that the universities use also are data considered critical and must be protected from leakage, and all the information related to the scientific and research work which can result in intellectual property rights is also considered critical data. Patents, related information on the application of the inventions, rights to industrial design, trademarks, know-how, copyright. Also, all the unpublished and unprotected intellectual property materials and research results, the knowledge of which by a third party may compromise the research results themselves, and to question the authorship or to damage the reputation of the university, blocking the possibility for further research. This also should be considered as critical data from universities. Agreements with third parties are a very important part of the critical data category, since such agreements hold information which can be classified by the third party as secret, or this third party might want specifically the information to be kept from the knowledge of any other users apart the people that work with it in the universities, and the university should abide to such agreements in order to keep the conditions set from this third party. When we speak about building DLP policies and strategies for universities, in the paper we have determined some main stages, and the first one is to determine the primary data protection objectives. Why the university needs to protect the data and the information, what will be the added value of such a policy. Then, to determine the main causes for data loss, we have classified the main reasons about causes of data loss into 3 categories: people, processes, and technology. Then define the stages for developing DLP system in the university to discover the information, to monitor the information process, and all the stages and people that work with that information, and finally to protect the information. And in order to do so, the university needs to define their own DLP architecture. In this paper, we have pointed out 4 main DLP architectures. The endpoint DLP, which requires building software agents that live on the endpoints, laptops, desktops, servers, and a device. These agents deliver visibility and, if desired, can control the data. The other architecture is the network DLP, which is often referred to as agentless DLP. It delivers visibility and control of traffic that passes across the university network. A physical or virtual machine inspects all the traffic, such as mail, web, instant messages, and can then enforce data policies. The discovery DLP is a solution that proactively scans the organization network, including laptops, servers, file shares, databases, to deliver a comprehensive analysis of where sensitive data resides on all these devices. The cloud DLP is much like the discovery DLP, and as its name suggests, it focuses, however, on the data of the organization that lives in the cloud. In order to check all the hypotheses and points we argue upon in this paper, we have done a study among Bulgarian universities in the beginning of this year, and we have asked representatives of universities, professors, and administrative personnel to answer a structured online questionnaire, providing their anonymity. And as you can see, in the study, 35% of all universities in Bulgaria took part. So I will briefly speak of the results of this study. The main fields that we covered by the study were the presence of negative experiences related to information and data loss, rules regarding the work with different categories of information, ensuring the protection of information, and protection of intellectual property rights at the university. Regarding the problems related to information leakage, in the surveyed universities, 3 main types of sensitive information were identified. The first type is the data related to assessment of students and the possibility for the assessments to be manipulated. The second type regards data loss related to public procurement, research projects, test materials, and everything related to the research and scientific work in the university. And then we have also the possibility of forgery of university diplomas. This was a big problem in Bulgarian universities in the past, but as you can see now, only 6% of the respondents considered this as a possibility and put university diplomas in the sensitive information that needs protection. In terms of existence of rules and procedures for working with different categories of data in Bulgarian universities, you can see that half of the respondents said that they have clearly spelled out rules and procedures that are followed by all staff in the universities, and we consider this really not satisfactory amount of personnel and universities that address the issues related to data loss and the risks the universities might have if they don't have a proper DLP policy. 29% point out that they have some procedures in place that are mostly followed by the administrative staff, and 17.6% mentioned that they have partially laid down rules that are made known to the employees involved in working with specific types of information. As you can see, the most popular instrument or tool to address data loss in the universities is defining the access to information depending on the need for the job position. So, as you can see in the next slides, universities more or less rely mostly on restricting access to certain type of information to certain people in order to prevent data loss, but this is by far not enough. As we mentioned in the beginning, in the data loss protection policy, it is necessary for the university also to address the issues related to the intellectual property rights and the creative works, research works, scientific works that are developed in the universities. And as you can see, only half of the respondents said that they do have such policies and clear rules what to do and what not to do in terms of intellectual property objects. There are rules and measures existing in the universities for people to follow related to IP only in half of the universities we studied. About the procedures the people need to follow when there is data loss or detection of abusive information, 61.1% of the respondents said that there are such procedures and they know who to address when such event happens. And in terms of working with restricted documents, you can see that 61.1% of people work with such type of information. However, nearly half of the respondents, 44.4%, say that they can freely transfer information to an external device, which is one of the main risks for data loss, and this most certainly should be paid attention to and not be allowed to such an extent. And as you can see on the graph on your right, 66.7% of respondents said that there is certainly a need for development of data loss protection policy in the university. Here on this graph you can see the existence of already some measures and strategies in Bulgarian universities, and as you can see, half of the respondents say that they do have some security policy and measures applied in the university. But considering also the previous answers and the possible risks of data loss, we believe that building a sound data loss protection policy and strategy in the university can help a lot to the organization to avoid the risks of losing precious information and risking also damaging the image of the university, which is not less important. Thank you for your attention, and we are here to answer your questions if you have some on the topics discussed. Thank you.